Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guests on this next interview. Nicușor Dan takes office as Romania's new president this week, inheriting a nation weighed down by economic crisis, public distrust, and fragile political alliances. After defeating far-right challenger George Simion, Dan now faces the daunting task of forming a stable government, restoring democratic confidence, and reaffirming Romania's role in Europe. Joining us today on TVP World is Oana Popescu, director of the GlobalFocus Center and a respected analyst on Eastern European politics, governance, and Romania's strategic posture in a shifting international landscape. Hello, ma'am, and welcome to TVP World.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
First of all, we are, after a very kind of twist and turn events when it comes to this Romanian election. Now, can you help us understand first how Nicușor Dan's elections say about the political mood in Romania today?
Well, as you can see, it's a very polarized society. So I think one of the main challenges for the newly installed president will be to reach out across the aisle and bridge that half of society that voted for him with the other one that actively opposed him and everything he stands for. So that is pretty much what we are left with. I think in the aftermath of the elections, the one thing that is very clear to us is that we dodged one bullet, but there may be many more to come. Russian interference is not going to stop there. Neither is domestic let's say, drive attempts to destabilize democracy from within, from the far right and extremist movements. They are quite strong. They have managed to win over a big part of the population. So that is going to be one of the major challenges moving forward.
Right, and there does seem to be a lot of challenge ahead, and winning the presidential elections perhaps is only the beginning of tackling them. Now, first of all, we were wondering about coalition building as well. How realistic are Dan's chances of forming a functioning majority coalition, given that the PSD is slightly hesitant?
Well, I think it's rather hesitation between being part of the government and actively supporting efforts to install a stable governance system and try to put the economy back on track. That's going to be the number one challenge in the coming days, even. Or, on the other hand, the temptation for many social democrats to actually go into opposition, support the government, a minority government from the parliament benches, but basically not take responsibility for restoring the economy that the social democrats had a big part in deteriorating. So I think his chances are pretty good. The prime minister that he favors, former interim president Dilie Bolojan, is also quite a responsible politician who will probably make every effort to bring all the parties around the table. And it's really a matter of what the trade-offs are. Will all of the pro-democratic, pro-European parties be part of government to deliver efficient, quick, stable governance and economic outcomes, or rather for the Social Democrats, because really the others I don't think are considering this option, go into opposition, try to rebuild there, try to grow as a political party, which wouldn't be a bad move in the long run, but comes with a risk of the Social Democrats actually becoming even closer to the far-right nationalists if they are part of the opposition and therefore facing an uncertain future. So I think at the end of the day, when you put two and two together, it's still going to be a preferred option even for the PSD to be part of the government.
Right. And you just mentioned earlier, one of the most important immediate monumental tasks to tackle will be trying to fix the economy. Now, Romania is facing an EU excessive deficit procedure and, market trust issues as well. What must Dan's team prioritize first in order to get the economy back on track?
Well, regaining the confidence of investors and of the European Commission. The European Commission is going to be key, and if we have EU funding that keeps rolling in, that's going to be a good signal for investors, and it's going to provide much needed funding for the continuation of the resilience plan. So that's going to be quite a challenge, but I think, politically, the European Commission, now that Romania has managed to make the responsible choice when faced with such a daunting electoral context, I think is going to show as much tolerance as it can. So it's only going to be up to the next government to prove that from a strictly financial and economic and fiscal point of view, it can come up with responsible policies. Now that's going to be more tricky because raising taxes is perhaps the obvious step to take, but it's one that both President and prospective Prime Minister reject at this point. And they have said that they would be making every effort not to make life more difficult for the investors, not to make life more difficult for the citizens. It's pretty much of a balancing act, really, because the trust of investors and of the European Commission needs to be regained fast, while at the same time we have to take into account the political reality of so much of the general population voting for the populists, precisely because they feel that their living standards haven't really been improving over the past few years. So I think this is going to be the cornerstone. Can the new president deliver quick results while at the same time keeping them sustainable in the long run, and not just from an economic perspective, but from a socio-political perspective as well?
All right, you brought up a very good point, and I would like to draw back to what you just mentioned earlier about the polarization and the nature of Romanian politics right now with the rise of a lot of these populist candidates. Now, there's no secret that this election has been quite eventful with the first annulled first round and also a lot of upset victories. The pollings really don't reflect what's really going on when it comes to elections. Do you think that this is going to become an obstacle in restoring public trust in democracy? And how do you think the new president will be addressing it going forward?
It will be difficult. We have sailed through very troubled waters. A lot of people will be dissatisfied. Some of them because their preferred candidate, Călin Georgescu, was denied the possibility of running again. Others because the candidate that they voted for, George Simion, has lost the elections. We are still not past the stage where the losing camp continues to challenge the legitimacy of these elections, despite the very wide difference. I think that's very much perhaps also because of MAGA consultants that are hired by George Simion. So trying a repeat of the Trump strategy of denying the final result of elections as being legitimate. On the other hand, there's still the expectation that the president might perhaps push the responsible state institutions to provide more answers, to provide the final result of ongoing investigations into what actually happened, how much was Russian interference, who from within the country this Russian interference has worked with, what will be done to purge the responsible institutions of potential Russian agents. So all of these things create a pretty complicated domestic context. And again, there is a tension between the need to generate very quick results to improve people's living, to show even those who have not voted for Nicușor Dan that this choice can actually put the country on the right track, while at the same time making sure that this is not a way of kind of solving all of these profound problems through executive measures, but contributing to the gradual improvement of politics and political representation in Romania, so that 3.5 years, 4 years from now, when we have elections again, people can feel that actually they are genuinely represented by the political forces in the country, which is not the case right now.
Right, like say, it's still a lot of monumental tasks to tackle, and a lot of things really ties into each other. Like you mentioned earlier, how a living standards kind of bring rise to the populace. So if that could be solved, maybe the rest of the problem would also come and solve itself as well. Looking ahead, what do you think are some of the benchmarks that we can use to define whether Dan's presidency is successful or falters in its early phase?
Well, I think the first signs that we're watching for are his choices of people who surround him. It's going to be telling if we have more or less the same figures, and that doesn't just apply to government, it also applies to the team in the Cotroceni Palace around the president himself. I think a lot of people want to see some new faces, and the government will have to be, since it's a coalition government, it will have to be made up of some of the people that we've seen before. The political parties in Romania don't necessarily have a lot of competent figures that they've kept hidden until now and that they can suddenly push to the front. So we will see, some of the usual suspects, but people hope that it's not really going to be the same old, which has really caused this wave of anti-establishment vote in the first place. And then it's going to be, like I said, the people that the president surrounds himself with. Will they be a mix of experienced people who may have been in similar positions before, and then some technocrats perhaps from outside of politics, or newcomers, or people with fresh ideas, or will it be more or less recycling the same people? And then, what kind of solutions are we going to see from the president and the government when it comes to the economy and some of the pressing social and political issues? Will they be, let's say, just light improvements? Will they be solutions that just provide temporary relief, or will they point to something more all-encompassing? And there has been some disappointment today with the president's speech, because it didn't really outline a vision for the country, a grand strategy.
Right,
But then
so
on the other
definitely
hand,
still a little bit of a bumpy road ahead. But in the meantime, all the best to Romania. Thank you so much for your input and insight. Really appreciate it. And thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Thank you.
Cheers. And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.